All right, welcome back, guys. We are looking at UFC. I don't even know what fight night it is, but it's Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker. On what are we calling this? Breakdowns and bets, bets and breakdowns. I don't know. Breakdowns and bets with Brandan.
Something like that.
Something like that. We're not going to go crazy on this. Honestly, the card is kind of a weird card in general. They've been like this more often than not. Is I don't know as many people on the cards that I used to know, or they've got kind of some matchups put together that aren't, honestly, they're the guys that are on like 2-3 fight losing streaks and stuff. And I don't know, there's a couple good fights to bet on the card. And I love the main event in terms of entertainment, but I'm not wowed by the card as a whole. What's your thought on the card and on the main event?
Yeah, this is a really tough card. I mean, you have favorites that are, I think, too big of favorites, and then you have a lot of fights that can really, really go either way. Not a lot of big names, a couple of short, late replacements. I mean, this is a tough card. It's a really tough one.
Yeah, it is. And I think actually but these are generally the cards that are the most exciting and have the best fights. Are these cards that nobody knows of? Like there's just a bunch of random people. You don't think a lot of people are going to tune into them. And then they just end up having these scrappy fights that everyone's talking about for weeks on end. But in terms of name value, there really isn't a lot of name value for the most part on this card.
Let's see. Well, where do you want to start on this thing?
Let's start with, I don't want to go over all of the fights. Not all of the fights interest me on this. I want to let's hear the list of fights that you think are good to bet. And then I'll list my fights that I think are good to bet. And then we'll talk about the main event. Sound good?
Okay. I just want to go full disclosure. Yeah. I want to go full disclosure. When I don't study a fight, you can almost always just bet against whatever I say and you're going to be successful. And I have not had much time to look at this card only due to the fact that I've been studying Cage Warriors and Bellator and so many other things.
Right? We were talking about that a little bit beforehand. How'd you do on Cage Warriors and Bellator, betting wise?
Bellator, I did okay. Cage Warriors, I just made a few mistakes. I was one fight away on both cards from making an insane amount of money. Just a couple mistakes
on parlays,
but I found some good underdogs, found some good even money. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm doing something different. I generally, hold on, before we get into that, I generally, I throw parlays like you do. And, when I first started betting, I was always like, hey, don't bet parlays. Parlays are lotto tickets, bet fight straight up. So I've been doing that. Or I did that for a long time. Then I started getting more into parlays. I hit a couple parlays, fell in love with parlays. And now I'm kind of going back to where I'm just doing straight bets, except for like one or two really small lotto ticket parlay type of bets. So I'm going to try and see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. To me, it's, parlays are so much more boom or bust. I have to put less in. And if I'm confident in what I like, and I do all the study and the research, I feel confident that it's going to hit. 2 or 3 is my sweet spot. 4 is if I'm feeling really, really good.
Okay. Yeah. I like a good 3-man parlay. But what do you got for this fight in terms of bets? What are you throwing down on?
So we have a couple interesting spots here. So like I said, I haven't done a ton of film study, but starting off the night with Alejandro Perez versus Johnny Eduardo. We have Perez, who's 7-2 in the UFC. He's 32 years old. He's got good wins, Matthew Lopez, Yuri Alcantara. And he's fighting Johnny Eduardo, who's 41 years old and hasn't fought since 2018. Eduardo's a little wild, a little crazy. And Alejandro Perez, nice, clean boxing. And he's only a minus 225, which is not a bad spot for a guy who's 32.
Yeah, I like that bet. I've got that. I've got money on Perez on that one. And, Eduardo goes in hot. He's got a good solid 3.5, 4 minutes of fury. Don't get clipped during that time. And Perez, I think kind of walks away with somewhat of an easy victory here. And at minus 250.
Yeah, I think so too. That's been a great bet.
Yep, I think so. What do you got next?
Yeah, that's a great bet. Next one. So I don't know if I would bet this one, but this one's super interesting to me. Part of the reason I was losing on Cage Warriors this entire weekend, we've talked about betting fundamentals, and cardio's got to be the number one thing. Fight IQ and cardio. Every fight that I lost this weekend was due to cardio. We get the big, strong guy that destroys for a round and a half and then gets dog tired, and now the other guy wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in Douglas Andraj versus Gaito Perello.
Oh, I think that's a
Douglas,
solid one. What do you got on this? Where are you going?
well, he's 36 years old. Douglas Andraj, 36 years old. He's won a couple, lost a couple, but the biggest thing to me is he's moving down to 135. This guy is as thick as they come at 145, and now he's dropping down to 135 against Gaito Perello, who had about as tough of a first fight in the UFC as you could possibly have in Ricky Simone.
See, I'm not betting that one, but actually one of my, I was on the MMA Lock of the Night a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me he was going heavy on Andraj, and he thinks Perello is not as good as he should be to be there, and I kind of agree with him on that. I don't know if I would bet money on Perello. I don't like Andraj coming down a weight class. I think is a legit concern. He's a big, thick dude, but man, I wouldn't bet it on Perello. I don't think he's got the skill set to win a fight in the UFC, let alone, I mean, a lot of fights, you know what I mean? Anything can happen, but I don't think he's the one to start throwing your money on.
I totally agree. Just something of note, just something that was interesting to me between age and weight, stuff like that. Let's see, what else do we have? This Devontae Smith versus Jamie Malarkey is very interesting to me.
That, to me, I wouldn't touch on a betting line, but I think that is going to be a really exciting fight. I think Devontae Smith is the better round one fighter. Malarkey's hard to put away. And he had that fight with Brad Riddell. That was one of the best fights I've ever seen. It was the sloppiest fight I've ever seen. It was awesome down in Australia. I think Devontae Smith is the better fighter. I think round one anyways. Can he close the deal and keep going around 2 and 3 against Malarkey, who won't die, is like a Terminator type of guy. So I'm excited for that as a fan. In terms of betting, I wouldn't touch it because it worries me. I think Devontae Smith is the truth. I think he's great. Can he maintain it for 15 minutes if he doesn't get the finish? That's my question mark on that fight.
I think that could actually be a really sharp play. I've been looking at it both ways, and I'm actually a big fan of Jamie Malarkey. I made money on his last fight. But Devontae, I think what's cool about him is he's calm. He jabs, low kicks, wrestles when he needs to. He kind of keeps the pace low. And he's powerful. Let's see. Now, this one for me is a very interesting one. Antonina Shevchenko versus Casey O'Neill.
Who you got there?
I got to do some more film study, but I was hoping that Casey O'Neill's wrestling would be better than I actually saw it be.
If you can out wrestle Antonina, it's an easy win. It's almost like the Kevin Holland of women's fights. If you can just spell double leg, you win that fight.
I just don't think that Casey can do it. I think Casey's going to get tagged too much on the feet.
Yep. I think you're right. I think that I like the Holland fight later. And I think that Casey O'Neill fight is a female version of the Holland Dawkins fight later on in the night, which I have money on Holland. I think Holland ends up beating Dawkins, but we'll get to that in a little bit. What else going up the card? Anything else?
Okay. I think I only have a couple more. This one I like a lot. So like I said, I haven't studied a ton of these plays this week, but one that I like is Joe Salecki versus Jared Gordon, and not a winner in that fight. What I really, really like is an over a round and a half.
Yep.
You're feeling crazy, maybe over 2 rounds. Joe Salecki's super talented, and Jared Gordon is just a guy that's always there. I think both are too good to get finished early, and it's going to be a grappling match. I mean, that's just such a great pick, is over a round and a half or a round.
I could see that. I like that actually a lot. It's the opposite in the main event. You almost pick that not to go to a decision. You pick Joe Salecki and Flash Gordon to go to over a round. Not even a decision, just over a round. I mean, it's almost free money right there. You're not saying, hey, what round is going to end? Does it go to a decision? There's a 99% chance that thing's going over a round. Even if the odds aren't great in your favor, it's free money. You may as well take it. It's a return.
I am the biggest coward when it comes to the prop bets. It's either doesn't finish the fight or over one round. There's no in between for me. That's the only ones I play.
I think that's smart. I think that's a smart thing because who wants to lose money? Like, why? You don't need to gain, 300%. Even if you just gain 30%, 30% is 30%. Like that's the way to do it. I like it.
Yeah.
Are you betting Nico Price, Alex Oliveira?
You know what? I think that might be a fight that I bet.
Okay.
Here's why. Nico is one of those guys that does not die, and he's always there. But just watching his skills, man, I just don't think he's very good.
I was watching this.
You had to pinpoint.
Yeah, like he's just one of those guys. You watch him in the first couple of minutes of round one, and you're like, this guy is not skilled enough to be where he is. And then it's his toughness and his grit that gets him through it. And then you look at Oliveira, and he's super skilled and then just fades out so fast that it's hard to kind of gauge it. I look at that fight, though. I am betting that. I'm actually – this is crazy. I thought, oh, my gosh, I'm going to bet the house on Oliveira. And then I started watching more film, and I'm watching Oliveira. And I think his luster is gone. I think his shine is gone. I think he was really talented back in the day. I still think he's talented. I think his chin is gone. And I think his desire to fight and that will after that first 3.5 hardship. When he faces hardship, I think he crumbles these days. And I think I don't think Nico Price is technically phenomenal, but I think he's tough and he won't die. And I kind of look at this as I look at Oliveira almost as a poor man's version of Michel Pereira, who Nico Price fought last. And he lost, but he wouldn't die. And I think his just unwillingness to die is going to get him the win against Oliveira. So I've got money on Nico.
I'm with you. I totally understand. But when you break down his record, right, Pereira, I mean, just did whatever. Like, that was such a brutal fight for 2 rounds, right? Cerrone, Vicente Luque. Now, how's he winning his fights, right? He beat James Vick, who hasn't won a fight. I mean, I think he's 0-6.
Well, he upkicked James Vick. James Vick had him down, and then he upkicked. Yeah, he upkicked and wrecked him that way. Same with
here's what I'm saying to say. Every fight he's losing and find some crazy way to win. Randy Brown, hammer fist from the bottom.
So do you think he beats Oliveira? Do you think Oliveira's going to win?
God, you know what? I have to sit down with it. I think Oliveira, I guess here's the big question. Do you know how old Oliveira is?
He's not 50, in case you were wondering. I think he's 33 years old. Now, he's been fighting since he was a fetus. But it
seems like he's every bit of 45.
Every bit of 97. Yeah. So he shouldn't. He should not have the chin issues that he has at the age that he has. He's been doing this for so long, and he has just been. He was really wild back in the day in terms of fighting. It was fun to watch. I feel like all of his best days are behind him. And I think Nico Price still has just more fight in him. In the fight game, that's what people don't get. It's not always skill. A lot of it is just being tough. Just being tough enough to get through that round one and just still be, just being there to fight. I mean, I'll take a somewhat unskilled fighter any day over a quitting technician.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so, you know what? When I hear all that, maybe that's a fight that I end up staying away from. If I just cannot decide, and it's a lot of what ifs or maybe, but if he has to do this,
this whole card is that. This whole card is the what ifs. I mean, we talked about Perez in the very first fight, Johnny Eduardo. It's a tough guy, but he's 41. Then you got Oliveira over here and Nico Price, and it's like, well, it's kind of the same situation. Neither of them on these great streaks. You've got the next fight that I want to talk about is Kyle Dawkins and Kevin Holland. Can he get the takedown? You got all these weird matchups, Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker in the main event. Do his knees bother him? You don't have these guys in their prime coming up where you can really gauge it. We've got a lot of what ifs. This person's old. This person's coming off a streak. This person. It's a really weird card to bet because we have all of those weird intangibles here.
Yeah, I always say this is like everybody has a critical flaw on the entire card.
Yep.
Every single person has a critical flaw. There's no perfect fighter. Like every time, what's the guy that just beat Ryan Hall? That
Ilya,
Ilya Taporia.
Yeah, Taporia.
That kid, I'll take him every single time, man. That kid is solid everywhere, and 90% of the time he's going to win.
Yeah, Islam Machkov, man, that's cool.
Every time. Yep.
But even you get guys like when Dan Hooker fought, he fought in New Zealand or Australia against Paul Felder. You get guys like that. That is just like two guys doing great, top of their game, no cardio issues. There was no what ifs. Better man won and lost, whatever. But man, you get something like that, and all of a sudden they're all things considered, and one of them's 41, and now it's like, well, when does Father Time come collecting? And Father Time collects. Yep. You just never know when.
We saw that last week with Kyle Dawkins and Shamil. I was so torn on that fight because, I was watching film on Dawkins, and just the way that he keeps his hands so low at heavyweight, eventually he's going to have to pay for it. And then you just saw that age come out. Shamil got a little tired, and Dawkins starts lighting him up, and things happened last week the way that they were supposed to with every single fight.
I'm 39, and waking up and going to the fridge right now may be the only thing I do in a day. I'm just so sleepy. So you're going to stay away from Nico Price. I'm betting Nico Price. What about Kevin Holland, Kyle Dawkins? What do you got there?
Man, this is such an interesting fight to me. And just like we're talking about with wild cards, I think Kevin Holland is the biggest wild card ever because, we watched the Brunson fight and he's talking trash as he's on his back in the fourth round. He didn't appear to want to win. He'll say anything, and just the problem with Kevin is he's so talented and so athletic, and he can do so many things so well. Where's his head at? Is he going to have good fight IQ? Versus Kyle Dawkins, whose skills are actually very similar to Kevin Holland. They're both good strikers, good black belts. Wrestling could use improvement on both sides, but Kyle Dawkins, great fight IQ. Has always fought super, super technical and smart, but maybe not as athletic and powerful as Kevin Holland is.
I think Kevin Holland starches Dawkins. I don't think it's going to be close. I think Dawkins is so slow in the stand-up department that Kevin Holland's going to be able to do whatever he wants. Dawkins is not a great wrestler, and I think the jiu-jitsu is going to cancel him out. Brunson beating Holland. Brunson's a phenomenal fighter. He is a top fighter. He is a phenomenal wrestler. To compare Dawkins and Brunson is like apples and elephants. I don't even think they're in the same,
Oh, I wasn't
world.
Comparing them.
Yeah, no.
I'm talking about Holland now.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah, I think Holland is too fast, too athletic. I think if it goes to the ground, he's going to be moving too fast. And I don't even know if Dawkins will get him there. I think Holland just starches him. Even if he doesn't finish him, I think it's a dominant performance by Holland. Just honestly, like that's my easiest pick of the night. And he has been working his wrestling with Johnny Hendricks down in Texas. You always hear stuff like that. Even if he didn't work any of his wrestling, I think he beats Dawkins.
Doesn't think it matters.
Yep, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I do too.
So before we go, I'm going to just recap really quickly before we get to the main event. So I have money on Perez over Johnny Eduardo. Let's see. Are you going to go with Douglas Andraj over Perello? Are you going to bet that? What are you going to do?
I'm going to figure out a way to make money on that somehow.
Okay. For you guys out there looking, I mean, there might be some prop bets. Does it go over a round, under a round? Does it go the distance?
I like over a round.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Devontae Smith, Jamie Malarkey. I think it's a great fight. I wouldn't touch it with my money because I don't want to lose money. I think Antonina Shevchenko wins it. What do you got? Joe Salecki and Jared Gordon goes over a round. I think that's a solid one. I actually have Alex Hernandez over Mike Breeden as well. I've got money on Hernandez. He's dynamic. He's athletic. He generally beats the guys he should beat. The guys who are not top talent, he starches. Something's going on with that dude's head. He's got to figure it out when it comes time to the top guys, how to win. But if you're not a top guy, Hernandez is going to start your ass.
Yeah,
Um,
that's actually a great pick, and I've been back and forth on that only because Breeden is he's a glory guy. He's just a tall guy. It's going to be a striking affair. So
yep.
those ones are tough for me to bet, especially at minus 550.
Yeah. I think Hernandez, I don't think he's a great wrestler, but I think he'll be able to get the fight to the ground. I think he's physical enough, and I think he's got enough experience to where I think Hernandez ends up taking the nod on this one. And then so Holland, do you have Holland as a winner, loser, victor? You
Yeah, I
betting?
like Holland as a winner. I like
Okay.
Holland as a winner.
I like Holland as a winner too. Now, we're kind of running through this. The card's not crazy, but we wanted to get something out for you guys out there. We've got Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker. Um, Initially, everything in my soul tells me to bet Johnny Walker. He's younger, he's dynamic, he's athletic, he finishes all of his fights, everything that there is. And I don't know that I can do it because he's so reckless that he basically headbutts everybody's fist every time he comes in swinging. And my issue with Thiago is I think he's 37 now, but at 205 pounds, 185, 205 heavyweight, you can fight till you're 205. Like those guys can fight till they're older. I mean, you're like Johnny Eduardo. He's 41 years old at 135. I mean, that's a bigger or 125, whatever it is. That's a big deal. I mean, look at Glover Teixeira and Blachowicz fighting for the title coming up. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. 2 fights ago, he murdered John Jones and not murdered. He did great against John Jones. A lot of people thought he won. And then he had ACL reconstructive surgery, and he has not looked the same since. That said, he has not been finished by strikes. I don't think ever. He's not a guy that loses quickly in the first round. His striking, I think, is more technical than Johnny Walker's. And if you look at all of Johnny Walker's wins, they're all within the first minute to 2 minutes of the first round. I don't think Johnny Walker is getting Thiago out of there that fast. And I think if you give Johnny Walker, not if you give Thiago Santos 25 minutes to beat Johnny Walker, if you give Johnny Walker 25 minutes where he can screw up and throw his head into something and do something dumb, I think he'll find a way to do it. I think if he doesn't get in there and get the victory, he will somehow find the loss. And I think Thiago Santos will be there waiting and swinging when Johnny is ready to find his loss.
Yeah, that's a great point. You actually convinced me a little bit back the other way because I was with you. As soon as I saw this, it said Johnny Walker by a country mile. Now, interesting, I just pulled up Thiago Santos' record. He's been finished in the first round a number of times.
By submissions, though, right?
No, Gegard Mousasi, first round by punches.
Okay, what year was that?
Don't worry about that. And then 2018, David Branch.
Oh, you're right. David Branch did finish him with strikes. Yep.
First round, yeah.
He lost. What did he lose? Third round, Gillett. Who did he lose to? Oh no, Rakic.
To Glover.
Rakic. He won a decision, right? In a pretty boring fight.
Yeah, he just stood there.
Yep. And then Glover took him down, but he about killed Glover before Glover, got him down and did what he did. But that's kind of Glover's MO. Everybody has killed Glover.
I was going to say, when are we just going to believe that's part of Glover's game plan? You
actually killed Glover once by walking by him. He came back. He's like 9 lives of Glover Teixeira. But Johnny Walker is tall. He is big. He is athletic. I think his fight IQ is that of somebody with Down syndrome. And I just don't know that.
Horrible.
I just don't think it's going to be. I mean, all signs point to Johnny Walker winning. In terms of betting, so in terms of fighting, if I'm going to pick a fighter, I think Thiago Santos wins. In terms of betting, I think the fight doesn't go the distance, or the fight doesn't complete 4 or 5 rounds, or the fight ends in KO, TKO, but don't choose a winner. I think that's the way to make money on this fight.
Yeah, that's a great way to right. That's a great way to make money. I look at Johnny Walker. He's 29 years old. He's 6'6". He moves so well. A little wild, a little crazy, but wins over Ryan Spann, Serkinov, Khalil Roundtree. I mean, you look at his wins. He's got awesome wins. He only loses to Corey Anderson and Nikita Krylov. That's pretty good. I just think he's so much bigger. And really what I'm hoping, and again, that's never a way to bet is when you're hoping something, but I'm hoping that Thiago's physicality scares Johnny Walker enough to just want to try to pick him apart, hang out on the outside, pick him apart. Uh, I don't know that that's going to happen. So I think what you're saying is the best way to approach this from a betting standpoint, not so much picking a winner. But if I had to, gun to my head, I'm still going to stick Johnny
You're going to
Walker.
stick with Johnny Walker? I don't think it's a bad one. I don't think there's a bad pick here. Like I said, does Johnny Walker find a way to lose? It's like Cub Swanson. I always thought Cub was so talented and he could find a way to lose against these top guys. And you're like, what in the hell is going on over here? So anything else? Any other bets you like during the weekend?
There's CFFC this week. This has been a really tough week. I just want to say, man, these British fighters, they are so good. I mean, you watch the level of competition in Cage Warriors, man, all of these guys are awesome. And man, that made it so hard this week to choose who was going to win. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it's been a busy week.
Really?
This will be good fights.
Nice. Well, good. Well, we will recap. I think we're going to start doing these on Tuesdays, right? So people have a little bit more time. So we'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah. We'll talk about how we did this week, and we'll talk about, the next upcoming fight week. So good luck. And everybody out there, only bet what you can afford to lose. And Brandon, where are you at on Instagram? Is it Brandan Olivas?
Yep. Just first name, last name.
And I'll put that up on the link up here on the screen so people can find you. And DM him, ask him for tips. Don't send him any obscene pics. Any
or do, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, or whatever. He'll take it. Just all right. We'll see you next time, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and hopefully you make some money.